Hello one and all, and welcome along to the Euro Fantasy League podcast. This is your monthly update on the Premier League, La Liga and Serie A on the back of quite a tough weekend in football, so we're going to get onto that in just a moment. I'm Jamie McLean and I'm joined as always by Dave Fennick. Hello there, Dave.
Hi Jamie.
How you doing? All right?
Not too bad.
Good. Well, let's get cracking on with things, eh? Yes, welcome along to the Euro Fantasy League podcast, Dave, and as I was just alluding to there, a little bit of a difficult weekend in football, for I'm sure everyone has already heard, but for those who haven't, after Leicester City's game against West Ham at the weekend, the helicopter carrying Leicester City owner Vichai Srivaddhanaprabha crashed outside of the King Power Stadium, killing all 5 people on board, including the owner. So obviously that's a real tragedy to hit football, that, isn't it, Dave?
Yeah, totally sad, and puts things into perspective a bit. And yeah, with everyone, rightly so mentioned the Leicester owner, but there was other people on board as well,
of course there were, yeah.
And everything that, and it is sad. And I think the pilot mind did a marvellous job.
Yeah, I was about to say,
That could have been a lot worse. It is tragic, you know what I mean? It's like horrible.
Very heroic what he did.
There was a lot of people still milling around outside.
Yeah, and he basically, he knew, cool and calm-headed, he knew the chopper was going down, basically, and basically did his best to steer it into the most open area he could. Yeah.
Just doesn't bear thinking about, does it?
No, it's absolutely horrendous. So obviously, it goes without saying, but we're going to say it anyway, deepest condolences to everyone affected. The friends and family of those on board.
Yeah, and I think he wasn't just an owner, of Leicester. I think he's done a lot for the actual city.
He's done a lot for the city. He's donated a lot of money to like local universities, medical research, local charities. He was he wasn't. I mean, I think Gary Lineker was saying, he said it quite well. He wasn't just a foreign businessman investing in a football club. He investing his money. He invested himself into it as well. He really bought into the club.
The community, didn't he?
Yeah, just seemed like a man of the people. And obviously, at a time like this, you're not going to tend to find many people who are saying bad words, but there don't seem to be any bad words to be said about him. People just the highest words they've been speaking of him, and he did a wonderful thing, including obviously overseeing their Premier League title win, which is arguably one of the greatest sporting stories in history. Certainly in living memory, one of them. And just really good bloke he seemed to be. It sounds like you're underplaying it by saying that, but that seems to be what he was, a really good guy. Yeah. So, deepest condolences to everyone involved with Leicester City.
Glenn Hoddle as well.
Club. Yes, and Glenn Hoddle as well, collapsing with a heart attack on the same day.
Seems to be improving, so hopefully.
Yeah, responding to treatment, and another legend of the game there, Glenn Hoddle. So fingers crossed that he can continue that improvement and get himself back to full fitness as soon as possible. So with that said, as we're talking about English football, Dave, shall we kick this episode off properly with some Premier League chat and see what's been going on in England's top flight lately?
Yeah. I mean, just sort of breaking news, really. Dele Alli signed a new deal at Spurs.
Yeah, literally that's happened minutes ago. Yeah,
till 2024. So in recent weeks, that's Kane, Son, Lamela, all agreed new contracts, and Ali as well. So you wonder. I think we're going to touch on Real Madrid in a bit, but Real Madrid manager's gone and Pochettino is getting linked with that job. You wonder if all these players would be signing contracts if Pochettino was going to up sticks.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's a good point. There's all these machinations going on. I was going to get to Julian Lopetegui in a few minutes when we get to La Liga, obviously. But, I mean, Harry Kane signing the new deal after links to the very same club, Real Madrid, of course, earlier in the summer. You wonder if Tottenham have done their best bit of transfer business by signing these players down to contracts.
Yeah, not actually signing new players.
Yeah, they literally didn't sign anyone, but they're keeping the core of their squad, some of their better players at the club. And go back a few years, that's something a club at the level that maybe Tottenham were at the time rather than now, but where they might have struggled to do that. When players start excelling, they might have wanted to move away, whereas they see the future at Tottenham now. And that's a good sign for everyone involved, isn't it?
Definitely. I think just it's about time they moved into that new ground, isn't it? It's dragging on, I mean,
it was meant to have happened a month ago.
Wembley after American football's been on at Wembley, and but these American football teams, they'll arrange them fixtures. They'll be arranged well in advance, and everybody will have expected Spurs being in the new ground.
Yeah,
and it just hasn't happened for one reason or another. But it's about time it happens soon, and I think Pochettino is excited about leading Spurs into that new ground,
that's
the new
another
stadium.
thing.
There might be more money become available, but you never know with Daniel Levy, man. So I mean, you never say never in football, but I'll be very surprised if he leads for Real Madrid, because if you think about it, Real Madrid, they change the managers quite often, so there's going to be another time when they'll come calling for Pochettino again.
Yeah, but Pochettino could maybe put that on the back burner for the future, because a manager of his calibre, as long as he continues on this trajectory that he's been on, I was going to say ever since he came to England, but before that when he was, at Espanyol as well. But obviously it's come to our attention a lot more since he's been in England when he came to Southampton. Just an upward trajectory. And as long as he can maintain that, you would imagine if the job comes up again in a few years' time, maybe even a couple of years' time, depending how this stadium move goes, maybe then it could be worth looking at. But you're right, he seems to be quite keen to lead Tottenham literally into this new era. New stadium, keeping some of their better players, some real world-class players they've got there now. And you
definitely.
just wonder if something special's happening there in North London at Tottenham. So,
but the Premiership season, it's been quite exciting up towards the top of the league. You've got Man City there on 26 points, with Liverpool 26 as well.
Yeah.
Chelsea there on 24 and Arsenal on 22. Now, Arsenal, it just seems like a cloud has been sort of lifted, and I quite like the new manager. And Chelsea's manager as well. It seems to be sort of the shackles are off, and they're playing football. Them players that we knew they could play. I mean, Ozil has been a revelation since the new gaffer came in for Arsenal.
I mean, Arsenal got off to quite a slow start as well, and there was some people really worried about what was going to happen. But as you say, it just seems to be a breath of fresh air there now. They're flying. And they're always a club that is around the top end at some stage of the season. But in recent years, they've sort of had a habit of bottling it, whereas this feels a lot more organic. They feel like a team that's just playing to be at the top of the table, and it's great to see. Tottenham were right up there as well until recently, of course. They were only a couple of points off Man City and Liverpool before they got beat.
And look who else is up there, Bournemouth and Watford. Bournemouth on 20 points already.
Yeah.
Watford on 19, so you would say they're safe already.
Well, there's still a long way to go, but they are quite literally halfway to that golden point, aren't they? I mean, Bournemouth are a team, when they first got promoted, you didn't fancy them to stay up, but they're
Callum Wilson playing out of his skin.
Yeah, Callum Wilson, and Joshua King's been a big part of them getting their feet firmly in the Premier League as well.
The lad that signed from Sheffield United, Brooks as well, he's found his feet and hit the ground running, scoring goals.
I think Bournemouth are a much more stylish team than people tend to give them credit for, to be honest with you.
Yeah. And then at the bottom of the league, you've got Huddersfield 3, Newcastle on 3. Haven't won yet, Newcastle. No. Fulham on 5 and Cardiff on 5. And I still think Benitez gets a free ride at Newcastle. There might be people starting to question him a little bit now. But, wherever he's had success as a manager, he's had money, So a good manager to me is somebody that can manage without
Yeah,
absolutely
that's
loads
right.
of money. You know?
Yeah, it should be a good manager is someone who can manage the situation to the best he can. Now, to be fair to him, there's the trouble at Newcastle. It seems to just sort of brew and show its head every couple of years, doesn't it? I mean, last season there was a very similar sort of standoff between Mike Ashley and the board and Benitez and the players. And Ashley eventually came in personally, spoke to Benitez and sorted it out. Things don't look quite so rosy between the two of them this time. There hasn't been that sort of moment of clarity where things have lifted and they can start kicking
I don't
on.
think they ever will be with Mike Ashley. You know,
well,
even though he's attended about the last 5 games, I think.
After having not done so for a long time.
I think Newcastle, they might have enough to stop up, but they're struggling.
Well, they've certainly got enough quality to stay up. It's whether or not they can translate that onto the pitch. I wrote an article on EuroFantasyLeague.com, funnily enough, before the season started, saying things need to sort of click into gear or else they're going to have a long season. And so far, I mean, I'm not
blaming Benitez totally. I just think he's got to be accountable, you know?
Yeah, he's got to be accountable to some degree because he's the guy that's in charge of putting the players out. But, I mean, we're over a quarter of the way in now and Newcastle and Huddersfield are yet to win.
Yeah, he's complaining about not having somebody to put the ball in the net. He sold Mitrovic and let Gale go to West Brom.
Yeah, exactly. I was amazed that Dwight Gale... I realised Gale went the other way to try and get Rondon, you know, and hope that Rondon could do the job there. But Gale was sure fire going to be, 5 to 10 goals at least, you would imagine. Mitrovic, I don't know what happened there. I don't know whether Benitez just didn't fancy him, but he's sort of gone down well.
I think it's either Benitez's way or no way at all.
Yeah,
and if you don't fit into them plans, that's it.
Yeah, I mean, Mitrovic is doing well at Fulham. For all, they're only a couple of points ahead of him, of Newcastle, but he seems to be enjoying his football there.
And that's Premier League Roundup, and I'll just reiterate all our thoughts with everybody associated with the Leicester City owner.
Yes, well, that's exactly right, yeah. Tragic thing to befall football, frankly, and not a sight that we like to see, obviously. So absolute condolences and sympathies to everyone involved. Now, Dave, rather than doing what we normally do and going for a break, coming back and talking about Serie A or La Liga, we're just going to go through the two of them all in one section this time. And then we're going to have a break, and then when we come back,
money's worth out of his mind.
Yeah, I know. Well, what can I say? I've got to do something, haven't I? So in Serie A, we're going to go to next. Have you got much on Serie A where you're at the moment?
Just that the usual suspects up there at the top of the league, aren't they? You know, Juve already 6 points clear of Inter.
Yeah, and Inter and Napoli tied on 22. Napoli losing ground, of course. They were only able to draw this past weekend, of course, so that's allowed Inter Milan to leap in there and take second place.
And our friends at Spal, terrible result for them just this past weekend, losing at home 3-0 to Frosinone.
There you go. Wow, someone's been doing his homework.
Yeah, I've been selling cornettos this morning, But, and that was their first win of the season, Frosinone. And so it's a bad result for Spal. I just hope Spal didn't go into that game thinking, you know, they just have to turn up because it's not that long ago that they've just become established, you know. And Frosinone have just come up and they've gone there to Spal and spanked them basically 3-0.
Yeah, that was Frosinone's first win of the season as well. Lifts them 6 points clear of Chievo at the bottom of the table, but still 4 points adrift of Bologna, who was 17th. That's a massive result for Frosinone. It's great. It's going to give them a little bit of confidence. I mean, they've scored 9 goals this season, and 3 of them came at Spal at the weekend. So it might give them a little bit of impetus to start hitting the net a bit more again. Poor result for Spal there. And who didn't have a poor result this weekend, though, Dave? AC Milan, they're getting a 3-2 win at home against Sampdoria there. So that was a massive result for them. It's allowed them to pull level with Sampdoria on points, and on goal difference, it moves them all the way up to 5th. So that's starting to look a little bit better for them.
Yeah, and the other Milan team, Inter, went to Lazio and won 3-0 with Icardi scoring twice, and Inter are now in second place behind Juve.
Yeah, they are. That like I said, like we mentioned earlier, tied with Napoli on 22. They're ahead on goal difference, and they were only a point ahead of Lazio going into that game. So that was a great result for Inter Milan.
Big win.
Yeah, massive win. So there's how Serie A's shaping up, basically. And what about La Liga? Let's have a little shufty at La Liga.
We have to start, don't we, at
I wonder
Barcelona
where this could
5, Real Madrid 1, and a hat-trick for Luis Suarez.
Yeah, he was on top form, wasn't he, Suarez? He's lethal on his day. And that result, of course, ensured that Real Madrid coach Julen Lopetegui was sacked for the second time this year.
Yeah, and so he left the Spanish job to go to Real Madrid.
2 days before, he did. 2 days before the start of the World Cup.
And then he maybe wished he'd stayed off with the Spanish national team.
Yeah, I think that probably, looking back, would have been a much better solution for him there, because it really hasn't worked out for him at Real Madrid, has it? I know it's still quite early in the season for newly appointed managers, to be losing the jobs, but when you're Real Madrid and you've only won 4 of the first 10, lost 5 of the last 6, they've got a goal difference of 0, and you're in 9th place. That's disastrous for them, isn't it? Their worst start to a season for a long time, that is, Dave.
It is, and a couple of stories attached to players that play for them two respective clubs. Gareth Bale has come in for some stinging criticism from Jorge Valdano, and he's an Argentinian former footballer, former general manager actually of Real Madrid, and he's now a commentator in Spain. And he's quoted as saying, "We continue to measure Bale on his price tag. His price tag has created a fantasy. He's a world superstar." So that's pretty harsh, isn't it?
Yeah, it absolutely is. I mean, there's a point. I mean, he went on to mention something about Gareth Bale scoring the goal of the season every year, didn't he?
Yeah,
I mean, Bale does hit some. I mean, look at that Champions League final goal against Liverpool. It was ridiculously good. I mean, I wouldn't say no to having Gareth Bale in my team, but it's Real Madrid. The standards are a bit different.
He's not turning up for big games.
Yeah, and when you spend that much money on a player, you would want someone who'll turn up and turn those games in your favour. So if they feel that Bale's not able to deliver that, I think it'll depend who they get in. There's someone who can maybe get the best out of him. On that front, maybe they will try and go overboard for Mauricio Pochettino.
You never know. You never know. And Lionel Messi, a bit of a story about him. He's currently out injured, Messi, with his arm injury.
Yeah, and broke his arm.
La Liga president Javier Tebas wants to name a trophy for La Liga's best player after Messi. So it would be like the La Liga Lionel Messi Player of the Year. Well, what, this doesn't sit comfortable with me.
No, that sounds like a bit of a conflict of interest, naming it after a player still active in that league.
Yeah.
Because if he ever wins it...
I thought it was just me thinking that, but do you feel the same way?
I mean, I get the gesture, I get the thinking behind it, but I wait until Messi's retired, because if he ever wins that award, you'll have people crying foul on it, won't you? I mean, but the problem is, though, he is one of the best players in the league, so he should be a legitimate contender for awards like that. But naming it after him, in a way, kind of rules him out of it.
It's like the Premier League trophy after Eden Hazard.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
It's crazy, really.
I know, I
didn't realise in La Liga they haven't had any of end-of-season awards since 2015-16 season due to desire to reformat them. But I think if they're going to reformat them this way, they can keep the end-of-a-season awards in La Liga.
I mean, what they're going to do, so the best player award is named after Lionel Messi. Say the midfielder of the year could be named ironically after Gareth Bale. I know he's more of a forward these days, but you know what I mean. I'm not sure. I think there's maybe not better players to name it after, but there's certainly better timing to put Lionel Messi's name on a trophy for a La Liga player.
And one good news coming out of Barcelona: defender Samuel Umtiti could be back, sort of. Maybe it's middle of November, towards the end of November. He's been out with a knee injury, but I don't think it's requiring surgery. So I rate him as probably the best defender in La Liga and he'll be back shortly.
I think he's certainly not too far away from it. I mean, if you're talking, I'm not going to go too far, obviously, into the fantasy stats just yet. We're going to come across those later. But Samuel Umtiti, if you had him in your fantasy team, believe it or not, he's only got 7 points this season from 5 starts.
I think that's because he's been out injured that much.
Oh, yeah, he's only made the 5 starts. But the 7 points from 5 games implies he's not quite hit his stride, which is weird because I would agree with you. I would say he's certainly one of the better defenders in the league. If not the best, I would say he's certainly up there. So... yeah,
so
well, there you go.
Premier League, Serie A and La Liga all covered.
Yep, so what we're going to do now, Dave, we're going to pop off and have a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to have a chat about any other topics that we haven't quite got to generally around the top 3 leagues. So we'll be right back. And welcome back to the Euro Fantasy League podcast. Now, Dave, the bit I want to talk to you about here is Jose Mourinho, because I want to get your take on him. Things are not going quite right for him at the minute, are they?
No, I mean, we say it not right. I mean, he's had a good result of the weekend against Everton, but I know what you're saying, but I'm a big fan of Jose Mourinho. Love him to bits. Think he's brilliant. Love his interviews after the game, whether he's won or lost, find him hugely entertaining and totally box office for the Premier League.
Oh, there is. I mean, even when he's playing the sore loser bit, it's massively entertaining, isn't it? But no, I mean, you're right. United got the win over Everton this past weekend, but I was more talking about recently, for example, going up against his old club Chelsea recently. Got the 2-2 draw, the last minute Ross Barkley equaliser, a bit of a kick in the gut if you're a Man United fan. And Marco Ianni, that's the assistant to Maurizio Sarri at Chelsea.
Who we'd never heard of before that day.
He's basically gone and got into Jose Mourinho's face and he's upset him. Now, I thought, me personally, it was totally disrespectful. He's gone charging down the touchline, past Mourinho and sort of give him a fist pump like that. Yeah. Mourinho's took that, and that's fine. Well, I was about to say, I don't think Mourinho saw that one. It was the one on the way back that got him incensed.
Yeah, well, coming back and doing that again, it's like a coward, isn't it? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think the Chelsea manager was sharp to apologise for his assistant's behaviour, and Mourinho accepted it.
Yeah, apparently Ianni went over to Mourinho personally and apologised afterwards as well.
Yeah.
He said, all disrespectful, I think there's still got to be room for passion in the game. I think what came across worse was when he made a beeline for Mourinho to do that to him,
Yeah, but who is this guy, Like, who is he? Like, nobody's ever heard of him, and I think Mourinho said that. He said, didn't even know his name. So was this fella trying to make a name for himself, and he's embarrassed himself really, and embarrassed Chelsea, I thought.
Yeah, I think it wasn't the best bit of conduct, I've got to say. He was at Napoli with Maurizio Sarri, and he moved over to Chelsea with him when Sarri took the job. I've got to say, I've been massively impressed with Sarri himself. I mean, we knew he was a good manager at Napoli. Obviously, we were doing this show last year and waxing lyrical about Napoli a fair few times last year. But since he came over to Chelsea, I wasn't sure how it was going to go. But
I think the players are certainly playing for him,
Yeah.
And someone that's flourished. I mean, I think you're going to go through the Fantasy League stats shortly, but Ross Barkley, he must be up there in the Fantasy League stats because... he wasn't getting much of a game last year. I know had a few injuries and that, but he's found a new lease of life there. And Hazard looks like he wants to play football every day of the week.
Yeah, well, Eden Hazard was another one I was going to mention after his comments about the Real Madrid move. Didn't get round to it at the point earlier on, saying that maybe he would quite like to play for Real Madrid one day. Personally, I think he seems quite happy at Chelsea. Following on from what you just said there, the football he's playing is brilliant. And you are right, Barkley and Hazard are both doing very well on the fantasy points. But as you say, I'm coming on to that bit shortly. I mean, going back to Jose Mourinho, I think I feel like I've said it on just about every podcast I've done recently, is that traditional third season blow-up. Is it happening? I don't know. I think he actually went to Man United with the intention of being there for longer than that. I think he saw himself long-term at Man United. things haven't always gone well. His conduct, as much as we're saying we like him, his conduct with the players has sometimes been a bit questionable as far as the media goes. But on the other hand, he does also deflect the attention away from the players when the time's needed as well. So I think he's a good manager, Mourinho, and I think things will go all right. I think if United want to get back to their title-winning ways, I actually think Mourinho might be the right man for that. It's just
let's hope so, because as I say, I really like the bloke.
Yeah, it's just at the moment something's not quite clicking there.
Well, I think the problem is you can only win. There's only one winner of the Premier League, and that's going to be Man City, whether Mourinho's in charge, whoever's in charge, Man City are going to carry on winning the Premier League for the foreseeable future, in my eyes.
You think so? You think they could go on a run of it, do you?
Oh, yeah. Like, you can't compete with that kind of money.
Oh, I know, but the thing is, though, you're not having to compete with Man City every week. You are, but you only go up against them directly twice.
I meant to win there. If Man United aren't winning the Premier League, that's failed. That's not success. So when you're coming up against Man City, season in, season out, if you don't win the Premier League, that's not good enough. So Man City will win the Premier League for years to come. Yeah.
Oh, no, I do get that. But it's just me. I'm quite liking Liverpool this season. I'm really enjoying them.
Yeah, but we say we like these. Oh, they look good this year. These look good. Man City will win the Premier League. Fact.
Okay, fact. You said that last year and you got it right. So that makes me wonder if... I think you are probably right, to be fair. They're tied at the top with Liverpool already. I think City have proven that they can keep going from beginning to end of the season. They've won 8 out of their 10 games, even though it felt like a slow start for them somehow. But
if they are struggling, they'll go sign someone in January for 240 million. So there you go.
Well, there you go. Problem solved, eh? But I don't know. I think Chelsea, I think Arsenal are going to be around there as well this time, I would hope. It would be nice to see them challenging again. But there we go. That's sort of some of the issues covered across the top 3 leagues. So I'm going to quickly go through some of the top performing fantasy players. We're not doing it the way we did last year, in that it used to be a team. You used to have your best defenders, your best. We're just going to look at some of the players who's doing very well. And the joint top fantasy point scorer in the entire game so far this season is Ederson, the Man City goalkeeper. So that just leads on quite nicely from what you were just saying there, because you need to have a good goalkeeper. Yeah, he's 10 million as far as the fantasy team goes, but 51 points, 7 clean sheets from 10 games. I mean,
not a bad stat, is it?
That's not bad at all, is it? And then just looking at he's tied at the top with Andre Onana at Ajax, but we don't cover the Eredivisie, unfortunately. So just looking at the leagues that we are covering here, Eden Hazard at Chelsea, again, already mentioned him, 43 points. Alisson Becker at Liverpool, their big money arrival from Roma in the summer, just behind Hazard. He's on 42 points. Still with 6 clean sheets from 10 games. So, I mean, that's great. Jan Oblak, Atletico Madrid, 40 points. It's kind of dominated by the goalkeepers, I think, largely. Aymeric Laporte at Man City, 38. Lionel Messi on 38 as well. Mo Salah, 38. And he seems to have been having a quieter time of things as well. But yet he still finds himself way up there. And Cristiano Ronaldo, obviously a lot of controversy that we're not going to go into really off the pitch. But
scored
he's not
twice on Saturday, didn't he?
Yeah, he's not letting it affect his football. He's 20 million to get into your team. His joint most expensive player. That'll come as no surprise, nor will the identity of the other one. That would be Lionel Messi.
Messi's going to lose out, though, in his points the next few weeks, isn't he, with his injury?
Yeah, well, where he's going to miss out, but I mean, the value, the 20 million price tag's still going to stay the same. So I can see Messi's ownership going down a little bit in the coming weeks and then probably spike back up again, especially if he can hit the ground running when he comes back. And his teammate Luis Suarez is up there with 36 as well, 13 of which came in that 5-1 demolition of Real Madrid. So there you go, just a little roundup of some of the players to look out for. If you haven't got any of them in your team, go for it. A recommendation that I would have, if you haven't already done so, haven't already included in your team, would be Andres Silva at Sevilla. 33 points he's got, and he's only 5.5 million. So, I mean, that's good. That would be my recommendation if you haven't already got him, but he is already owned by 20% of our fantasy managers. So
I was going to say, really, you've told everyone now.
Yeah, it's not really plucked out of nowhere, that one, but that would be my recommendation. So, Dave, until we speak again in November, thank you very much for joining us once again, and thank you for listening. Please do remember to check out EuroFantasyLeague.com and play the game, and the league-specific sister sites. I knew I was going to have trouble with that. Fantasy-Premier.com, Serie A-Fantasy.com and Liga-Fantasy.com. And do remember to get in touch as well. We're on Twitter at EuroFantasyPod. I'm on there at JamClean1984. Dave's on there at Davey Fennick. And you can email us, EuroFantasyPod@gmail.com. We're on all the usual platforms, iTunes, Acast, Stitcher, TuneIn, YouTube, Spotify, Podcast Addict. If you could just take a minute to leave us a rating and review once you've had a listen to the latest episode, that would be much appreciated. We really do read every comment that gets left, and we do appreciate everything, whether it's positive or constructive. So yes, if you could do that, that would be absolutely fantastic. And as I say, Dave, until next month, thank you very much. You take care of yourself.
Adios.